post video. So this one is looking at the brand new Mosaic dies from Tonic. The outside dies are a similar size to the patterned panel square dies that they brought out, maybe that was about a year ago now. I think there was 4 of them. So they're a similar size to that, and they're about 14.5 centimetres, which is about 5 3/4 inches. So they fit really nicely on like a standard square card that you get in England. And I think there's only 2 designs. This one is called Gates of Atlantis, and this one is called Orchid Meadow. I hope I've got them the right way round. I think I have. And one of them has got a straight edge on it, and the other one has got a gorgeous scalloped edge on it. And I don't know whether they're exactly the same. They would layer on top of each other, actually. Yeah, those 2 dies would layer on top of each other really nicely. So you could cut either design out of the straight edged one and layer it onto the scalloped edge, and you'd see a tiny scallop poking out around the edge as well. And the way these dies work, you might be thinking they look a bit odd, this side's not the same as this side. Well, they're in 2 parts. So you have half the design that has skinnier, intricate lines and more intricate detail, and then half the design has wider, like fatter detail that's on it as well. And then the same with this one. This one's a much more skinnier design. This one, you can see more metal. There's less pieces that cut out. And that's because the 2 sides layer on top of each other. So I have one, I haven't got the intricate one cut out. This was the solid one of this one. But you see how you line them both up together. I didn't do a brilliant job on this one. You can kind of see the join a little bit. But the way you line them up is they have little notches, tiny little notches just there, and the same on this one, and they're both sides. And how I was getting the perfect alignment was, I wasn't actually using them in the square because I was trying to show how you don't have to actually just make a square card with them, even though they're a square design. Well, for some of them actually, 2 are square, but anyway. The way I was doing it is when you cut one of them, those little notches will kind of deboss into the card, and you'll be able to see them. So when you cut the second one, you can see here I didn't do a brilliant job because you can see they're slightly off from each other. But when you cut the second one, if you line that indent of a notch back up with the actual notch of the die, you'll get the perfect cut. And you can see there that mine was slightly off, that second one was slightly higher, so you can see how it's a teeny bit off down the middle. That doesn't really matter, you're not going to notice that, and especially if you decide to make a card and you want to put the sentiment across the centre, that would not matter one bit at all. But that is how you get the perfect alignment. Well, that's how I've got the perfect alignment. So these should be on Create and Craft with Jodie at some point. And I'm sure she'll tell you if there's a better way of getting the perfect alignment. But the samples I'm actually going to show you are for QVC Germany, so they've got German sentiments on them. But if I do get a chance to make any more cards using these before I put this video up, then I will add that footage to the end of the video as well. But I just wanted to get this bit of the video filmed whilst I actually had some samples to show you. Yeah, so you have the 2 sides of each of the designs, and you don't have to cut them both this way around. On one of my cards, I actually faced them like that, so that you had the 2 semicircles opposite each other. Rather than making a whole sort of circular design, I did them opposite each other, and you could do the same thing with this one as well. And the way, because you don't have the notches on the other side, the way I was getting the alignment right so that both layers would align nicely was you have obviously the cutting edge along this side. So when I was cutting the second one, I just made sure I could see that tiny little bit of cutting edge on the back of the card once I'd lined the second one up. So I'd cut the first one, and then I took this die, turned it round, and then held it to the card, flipped it over, and made sure I could still see those tiny little bits of cutting edge poking through, so I knew that the pattern was going to match up nicely. And that's how you would get it to match up on both layers. You do the same thing with the intricate layer as well. but they are both gorgeous designs, and they're really lovely to paper piece. I paper piece this one, and with the paper piecing, I was piecing back into, oh no, was it that one? Yeah, it was this one. Yes, sorry, I was piecing back into this one, but because this one has thicker lines, all of the pieces are smaller, so you can actually piece this petal back in, but then piece this petal on top of it, and you'll still see a bit of the colour from the bottom one. And same with like these little bits around here as well. So, and even the little semicircles from the inside of the flower, you can do it with like every single piece if you wanted to. So that gives something different to paper piecing with a lot of other dies, because you wouldn't be able to do that with them. And again, if you paper piece this one, you could do that same thing. I didn't get a chance to do it, but that would work as well. So that is the 2 die sets. This one is Gates of Atlantis and Orchid Meadow, and they're the mosaic dies. So this one is using the Orchid Meadow. I've done 2 cards using this. Again, they've got German sentiments on, but you could just use an English one, because they do an English version of this shape of sentiment. It's from the centre of the Pretty Posies, I think they're called. Yeah, so for this one I was showing how you can snip into the design. So the design is actually square, but you can snip this gorgeous flower out of the centre, or you could even go further down and snip this even smaller flower or this even smaller flower, and you could decoupage them, or you can layer them on top of the broader design, and again you can snip into the broader design as well to give a different effect. So I cut this size flower out of the intricate design, but then on the broader design I also snipped around part of it, so that this part of the design doesn't have the intricate layer on top of it, but the rest of it does. So it just gives a different look to if you were to layer them on top of each other and have the complete design. It just gives a bit of a different look to it. And then I also embellished with some Nouveau drops, and even pulling out the Nouveau drops to give more of a teardrop shape as well. So that was just one version of showing how you can snip into them to get a different look to them, really. Then this one is the paper piecing one. So, and this was just using half the die. So when you cut these dies, which one was it I used? The intricate one. So when you cut them, there is no actual straight cutting edge along this side with the notches, because obviously they're supposed to join up with each other, so you complete the pattern by cutting them both together. But if you just wanted to use one half of the die on your card, you're still going to have pieces that are joined in down here, which is why I have put the sentiment all the way across the bottom to hide this. And I just translated that on Google. I think it says have a great birthday. I hope it says have a great birthday. But obviously you could make that an English sentiment as well, or whatever country you're from. But so the way I did it was I cut that into the card, and then these pieces down here are still partly attached. So all you do is just take like a knife. This is one of the Tonic ones. I really love this one. Or you can take an actual craft knife and then use a ruler and just cut all the way along those pieces so that they fall out. And then again, to get the little pieces that go inside, you will just snip the coloured pieces out of the other ones that you've cut out as well. So like here, this was the pink one. See, I was using the 2 blue waste from this one to do this paper piecing, but I wanted to bring in another colour, so I brought in the pink, and you can see here it doesn't have to be neat. I was just chopping out those last pieces to go within the pattern. I mainly wanted these outside pieces, and again, because we've hidden that bottom edge, it doesn't matter if it's messy or neat, so that's really good as well. And you can see here what I was talking about with the layering, because the broader one obviously has smaller openings in it, because the side pieces are broader. They can layer nicely on top of the other ones. So I pieced back in the pink one because that was cut out of the actual intricate design which I used to cut the white card, but then I put the blue pieces back on top of it, so you end up with a little narrow pink border around it as well, which I think looks really nice. And down here I used the small pieces out of the blue one because they're smaller than the white one, because they're the different patterns, and then I filled the rest of the space with glitter because I added double-sided adhesive behind this panel before I started paper piecing, and then any of the pieces that I didn't want to piece in, I just added the glitter to them. And again here I used the smaller blue pieces, and then the glitter surrounded the rest of it as well. And to finish this off I used some of the water droplet Nouveau gems and some Nouveau drops as well, just to go with that gorgeous navy blue kind of colour. And to tie the glitter into the rest of the card I also just added some strips of 3mm red liner tape around the edge and then glittered them up as well, and it really gives like a gorgeous focal element to a card. I really love how that one turned out. So that is my 2 samples using the Orchid Meadow. Then for the other one I kind of use them more in the way they're intended for these ones. This is the Gates of Atlantis. So for this one I cut both layers out of grey and stack them on top of each other, so it even looks nice stacking the same colour on top of the same colour. And then for this purple element I snipped out that central circular design from it, and I've actually twisted it 90 degrees so you can see like this pointy petal here is actually below over here. And also I cut this circle out using stitched circle frames, and then I snipped into this purple design and snipped into where these 4 pointy pieces are, and I tucked the frame underneath that, so the 4 little pointy pieces actually stick over the top of the frame as well, which I thought was really lovely. And obviously because I offset it, it gives a really frilly kind of look to the card, and I really love purple and silver, or purple and grey together, and I think that says sending love, which I thought was a cute little sentiment to put on a card. And obviously I put some silver glitter card behind as well. I just really loved how that one turned out. And I just wanted to show how it doesn't have to be a square card. You've taken all of the square elements, but you can just trim them down into whatever size of a card you want, and the circle element or the central part of the design doesn't have to be in the centre of your card as well. I moved it off to one side for this one too. So I thought that was a good use for these dies, and I really love how it turned out. And then this one is the one I was saying about cutting them back to back the wrong way. So the design is supposed to go this way around, but I cut it the other way around, so you get a different look to the design. You get 2 semicircles facing away from each other rather than creating a circular element. And I mean, look at the completely different look that gives. Like you don't really notice there's any kind of circular element to this design, whereas here it's very evident, and again I've emphasised it with the circle frame, but it's a very evident circular design, whereas this one it doesn't look circular because we flipped the circles the opposite way round. And I did actually put the sentiment across the join on this one. The join did work perfectly, but I just felt like I didn't want to cover up too much of this one, so I thought a strip sentiment across the centre would work really nicely as well. And if you didn't get the perfect join, you know, perfect way to hide it, you don't even have to try and join it that way. You could just cut the panels as they are and layer them up the wrong way round, you know, and do it that way. And they've also, you got the broader layer below them as well. That does kind of get offset a little bit more or a little bit differently. Maybe I just didn't stick it very well. It seems to be more offset down here. But anyway, if you didn't try to line them up in the centre and you just hid the join, you'd get that more perfect than I have here. But yeah, I just thought that looks really cool as well. And again, I used a couple of square dies. You could have used the ones that come within it, but it wouldn't hide the edge. I mean, you could have used the, say, the scalloped one that came with that design and then used a smaller square inside it. You'd have got a wider frame, but you just need something smaller to bring the edges in so that you're hiding part of the outside of the design to make it look neater. So that is the last one that I've done using those mosaic dies. So if I have managed to make some more cards using these dies, I will add that footage in now. Hello, I can't remember what I said in the beginning of this video, but I have done a couple more cards. I think I said I'd show them if I did make them, and I also have the dies in the original packaging now as well. So this is how, I don't know if I had the name, yeah, no, I did have the names before. This one is called Gates of Atlantis, and you can see in the 2 tones of orange, it's kind of difficult to see, but you can see the double layer of detail that these dies give. It looks like there's only 1 die in the packaging, but you get the 2 dies that work perfectly. You have half of the design on each. You'll have seen that at the beginning of the video, but yeah, you have half the design in each, so you can create a full design. You can just use it on a square card, or you can use it in different ways as well. You can even just use half the design on one of the cards at the beginning. I'm sure I just used half of the design on one of them. And the other one is the Orchid Meadow, and you can see that sort of double stacked design that you get when you literally just cut them out and put them on top of each other. And again, you get both halves in the design, and you get a thicker one and a thinner one, and you layer them up. I love this card on as the sample. I'm pretty sure that's one that Ali's done. And look at the way she's decoupaged it. You can like really snip into it and raise the layers up as well, which is gorgeous. And oh, they're slightly different sizes. So this Orchid Meadow says it is 5.4 inches square, whereas the Gates of Atlantis says it's 5.6 inches square. I guess that's just because of the scalloped edge to the design. But so that's what it will look like in the actual packaging. And then the other 2 cards that I've done, I also want to show you something as well. I'm going to die cut something just to show you a really cool thing that you can do with these. I haven't done it on any of the cards because I only just sort of realised afterwards. But so this is one of the cards that I've done, and I did a lot of paper piecing on it, so I have quite a few leftovers of die cuts, and that's how I discovered this other thing I'm going to show you. But I've got quite a few like leftovers of the die cuts, and so the way I was paper piecing it is I cut the like the chunkier layer, which has smaller apertures, out of white. Then I cut the finer detail out of black and layered it on top, but then I went back in with multiple colours of greens and die cut the chunkier layer again, and then used them to paper piece back in to the design. And so I've used a mixture of the 3 different green cards. I've got a satin mirror, a shiny mirror, and just the normal CRaFTi textured card. And then in the rest of the areas I've just added glitter, because the way I like to paper piece is you take either like a really wide double-sided tape, like a roll of double-sided tape, or you can take the Nouveau Craft Perfect adhesive sheets, and you basically put the intricate pattern onto the adhesive, so all of the adhesive is showing through all the little gaps, and it makes it so quick and easy to do the paper piecing. And if all of your pieces happen to stay inside the die, like, you know, sometimes all the bits drop out and it's a nightmare, but sometimes, I'm not sure why it happens, but sometimes all the little bits stay inside the die, or they even cling on inside the die cut. And when you have the adhesive already down, you can like lay this over the top and poke through to get them in the right places, which saves a bit of time as well. It doesn't always work because the bits fall out, but if they do stay in the card or in the die, you can do it that way as well. I'm sure I've shown that quite a few times in my sped up videos, but I just really liked how this card came out. I haven't used this orange and green colour scheme for quite a while actually. It used to be one of my go-tos for like masculine cards like years ago. But yeah, I thought that turned out really nicely, and I was trying to show that although this is a square design, you can make it rectangle. All I did was take, these are the mixed edge A2 layering rectangle dies from Tonic, part of their like Basics Essentials range, and I just I used 2 scalloped ones actually because the sizes worked perfectly, and just created a frame, and then I could snip off the excess, and I didn't paper piece all of it either. I mean, there's not much that I haven't paper pieced, but like these little fiddly pieces, I didn't bother putting them in on this side of the pattern. And you just literally stick the frame on top and then like undercut with your scissors to snip away the excess as well. And the sentiment is from one of the Floral Frames die sets as well. So I just really liked how that turned out, and I used some Nouveau drops just to accent the larger areas of card, because you know there's sort of small detail here and it gets to larger areas, so I thought adding the Nouveau drops will kind of like break up the area. And I used some of the ripened pumpkin gloss drops, and this is the soft mint metallic crystal drops. These ones came out with the Woodland Walk release. So that is that card. And then I really love how this one came out. I didn't film either of these and it's so annoying because they came out so well. If I get a chance I might try and do this in a video, because look how cool that looks. So I've made it a double layer shaker. So basically when I was putting this together I added the intricate one. This is the Gates of Atlantis one. Yeah. I added the intricate one on top of my acetate and added the glittery circle as my frame around it, and then I added 3D foam behind the acetate, but then I stuck on the other die cut so that the two die cuts are actually separated. Yeah, you can see that there. There was actually a layer of foam between the two die cuts, and then after I'd stuck that die cut on, I then added more foam behind that die cut too. So there's actually like 2 layers of shake to it. So, you know, the little stars can fall through the back pattern towards the front if they want to as well. And I've used a mixture of turquoise stars, which were in one of the original releases in the Nouveau and CRaFTi range, and then I've used the Mermaid Parade stars, and they're actually different sizes. I don't know if you can see that on the camera. They're different sizes. I think, well, they look very similar, don't they, with their colour, but they are different sizes. The Mermaid Parade ones are slightly larger, so that looks really nice having the mix of the two. And I also used some clear glass micro beads in there as well. That gives it that cool noise, and it also helps the sequins move around more, because they're kind of, if you've ever got micro beads on your work surface and you put a piece of card down, sometimes it can just like go rolling off because it's just rolling on the little tiny beads, and that's how it kind of makes all the little sequins move nicely inside. And again, I wanted to show how you don't have to use the full design. I mean, although this is a square design, you could have made this a square shaker card and it would look gorgeous as well, but for this one I've put the circle frame on it and I've offset it from the centre. I could have done it exactly around the centre, but instead I've shifted the frame so that the centre of it is more like to the upper right portion of the circle, which I thought was really nice to do as well. And then to finish it off, I've used some of the silver crystals which came out in the Merry and Bright colour trend. I've used some of those glitter drops just as like a really subtle extra framing around it, and I used a glitter marker around the very edge of the card as well. Yeah, so I just wanted to show you those extra couple of samples. I think I had 4 to begin with. Can't quite remember what they were, but yeah, you will have seen a few minutes ago what they were. But also, as I was looking at all of these leftovers from that green and orange card, I was like, I wonder if this would work. So what you can actually do is you can get these really cool shapes. Look how cool they are. They're like just skinny, intricate shapes, which look like they were really difficult to cut. But all you do is you take your thicker die cut, which I was using for all that paper piecing, and then you take the smaller die cut, which has the smaller details on it, and you line it back up over the top, and you can see how it lines up. You can just see a slither of the mirror card out of the side. You want to make sure you use a few pieces of tape so it stays nicely in place. But when you do that, you then end up with these tiny little slithers, and this is obviously the difference that you usually see on the design. So for example, on this paper pieced card, you see that white slither that's round the edge of the green piece. That's based on, let's do it on this one because it matches. So that's basically the little piece that you're getting. So you could also do some kind of cool paper piecing technique like this as well if you wanted to. If you like all the little fiddly pieces, you could do something like that as well. I just thought I'd show that too. I haven't actually used any of these pieces on a card, but I just thought they looked really cool. I just cut it because I thought, I wonder if it will work or whether the die will move and you won't really get nice clean pieces, but they look so cool. So I just thought I would share that as well, as another cool way that you can use this die set. So like in this, for example, these pieces here, where that glitter is, that's the little piece that I've ended up with as a little slither of a design. Or this piece where the glitter is, you've got that little piece. I just thought it was really cool, and you could even paper piece these back together and just have these on a card, or maybe you've still got your orange glitter out, you could piece all of these back in to create that design just with these waste pieces and then glitter it as well, so you wouldn't have to keep sticking tiny little skinny bits down if you use double-sided adhesive. But yeah, I just thought I would share that as well, as like an extra advanced way of using it, or stepping up your paper piecing if you love your paper piecing as well. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this up close video. I've probably already ended the video in the previous bit of footage, but yeah, I really do love these mosaic dies, and I really hope they bring out some more designs in the future, because I think they're going to be really cool to use. And actually, you could even use them in conjunction with each other. I didn't actually try that, but I've got... Oh no, that is that one, isn't it? But that looks cool with the green and the pink as well. I haven't got another one of the others already cut out, but yeah, I'm sure you can try and mix and match the designs. Obviously they won't layer on top of each other, but you could probably create some sort of cool design, because like these four corners here could match up with that and the central section on top of it and stuff. But anyway, I'm sure you're going to be experimenting a lot with these dies, and one of them is going to give you loads of different options of different cards that you can make as well. So yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you again in the next video. Bye!